You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. What's the path to rediscovering yourself and finding peace after separation? Find out in today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we explore the healing journey that follows separation and how to rediscover a sense of self after such a life-changing experience. The conversation touches on the challenges and uncertainties that come with leaving a relationship and how these moments of adversity can open doors to new possibilities and personal growth. We explore different tools that can support this process, such as guided meditations, energy work, and trauma healing techniques. This episode offers a compassionate perspective on finding healing and transformation after separation. Ivana Care is a life and transformation coach. Her journey into coaching began with her own personal transformation. Like many of the women, she found herself facing an impossible choice in a relationship that no longer served her. Leaving meant stepping into the unknown and facing adversity, but it also meant opening doors to new possibilities. Today, Ivana is helping other women find themselves after separation. She combines her personal experience with powerful tools like guided meditations, energy work, and trauma healing techniques. Here is my interview with Ivana Care. Hi, Ivana. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because healing after separation is such an important topic to talk about, and I think will resonate with a lot of our listeners. So thank you for agreeing to join us today, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And would you like to start off telling us a little bit about your own story, maybe kind of where your journey started and where you've been and what you do today so our listeners can get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. We will start maybe in 2017. I had a beautiful wedding, and later that year I gave birth to a baby girl. So I have a daughter from my marriage. And it was actually a challenging relationship. So maybe it was 2.5 years later, and COVID times, right? Now in that 2020, when things got really tricky for a lot of people. And how would I describe it? We decided to separate. Actually, it was my ex-husband who decided to put the final date on it and call it a divorce. I was in Australia by myself. I don't have family here because I was born and raised in the Czech Republic. So there was a period where I did feel empowered and did feel like I'm ready to go on a journey on my own. But because I wasn't growing up in Australia, I had a lot of insecurities, like how can I provide for my little family? How can I, have rent by myself, and how everything for a single mum will be in Australia? What's the social network or social support, and what quality of life I will have to continue with? But yeah, that all I kind of conquer it and then felt stronger and that I can actually do it. But there was this desire to have someone walking along with me. And I started dating again, looking for another partner and starting a relationship again. So I actually fall in love very quickly, very deeply. And I felt like this is my soulmate who completes me. He was a very charming man. But after a year, I started seeing similar patterns and similar, let's say, challenges and conflict and disagreement, and pretty much patterns is what describes it the most. So I started paying more notice and thinking like, what am I doing wrong? How can I improve this? And that's probably what's starting to show up in my life. And I would say there was a moment where I realized I'm avoiding conflicts, and I would like to take responsibility for what role I played in the dynamic in both my marriage with my ex-husband and with my partner. And the pattern I repeated was I had a child with him and I separated with him shortly after. So again, I was a single mom, finding myself like repeating the same thing. And I had to recollect myself again and see what is it inside of me that I keep repeating and that I'm calling to my, I don't know, reality or my life story. So that was when my healing began. And there were some parts which were quite challenging. I had to leave the relationship, not only as telling my ex-partner I have to leave, but I have to actually leave all my possessions behind. So I had to start my life and rebuild myself from a very challenging situation. And there was like an inner knowing or inner strength I found. I can't describe it, but before I realized what is that I'm called for, I had big disconnection with myself. I felt like I'm on a roundabout or carousel or merry-go-round, or what would you call it? So things were very blurred, and I'm a very empathetic person, and I got confused of what is someone else's feelings, what are my feelings, what's someone else's purpose, what's my purpose, and everything's got so muddled up. And I didn't know where is up, where is down, who I am, where do I end, what upsets me. So those things were yet to untangle. And from this fog, I just remember I was trying to ask for help, for some therapy, listening to some podcasts and trying to get my head around the fact that I no longer know where to go. So I think the first was trying to reconnect myself was this prayer I have: please remove the veil of the deception from my eyes, because I felt like I could not see reality, or maybe the reality was so quick that I was just very disoriented in my life. And listening to this podcast, not yours, but listening to one podcast, the podcast which woke me up, it was just this lady just talking about boundaries and like empowerment and the sense of who you are and who's other person, what's your responsibility, and what other people have to heal. Like, I was very disoriented, but something about her voice and her mission and message just spoke to me. So I reached out to her, and she was my first therapist who took me through, let's say, childhood healing and embodied experience, which means tapping into how I feel in my body. Because before that, I could never even connect with how do I feel in my body when I feel anger, how do I feel when I'm upset, how yes is felt in my body, how no is felt in my body. And that was the broken compass, because I had no direction and no way of tapping into that inner wisdom. So she helped me to navigate the life and kind of untangle this situation I was in and couldn't find a way out from. And because that was such a transformation for me and made such a difference, I went deeper in those practices and practiced more of feeling the feelings in my body and deepening that experience. And I was lucky enough, I found another therapist in Australia who was able to help me and guide me and hold me in a lot of my challenging times and challenging feelings, which I was learning to feel. And from there, I started to feel the sense of what is my purpose, what I have to do in this life. And even though there was a moment where I actually became homeless and had to find a shelter in women's refuge, I had the inner peace that this experience is because I need to witness others. And I'm there just to tap into how women get into this situation. And because there is way in, which is similar. When I was talking to these women, I realized we all have the same story. And if there is a same way in, there must be a same way out. And I can become the guide and the light for them. So going through that experience, it started to guide me, and I started to kind of get out of my own way and feel more and more that what I'm doing is the right decision and right thing. And so I decided that I will be coach, and that I will be helping women who are going through breakup or divorce or difficult life situation to transform their lives and make them more confident, happy, and kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because when you have that muddled vision, that blur fog, it's really hard to navigate, and you need someone to hold the space or the light for you, so you can work through it and have your transformation. And last piece to the puzzle was getting my certification or my modality, which is that embodied work to tap into how emotions are felt in the body and heal the childhood trauma. So that was the missing piece, and I was drawn and called to help others to heal the childhood trauma. Like, it could be big T trauma, as trauma from a car accident or like a big life event, or it could be small trauma, which is in your unconscious mind, just as little as your parent didn't buy you a toy in a shop or something you can't even recall. But in that moment, something happens in you, and even though you don't remember it, unconscious still have a memory, and it's kind of also living in your body, in your muscles or tissue. And you need someone to witness you in that moment, process the whole cycle of the emotion, and embody it and integrate that experience. So yeah, I love doing that and helping people to heal those little and big moments from their past. Most often it's childhood, but could be anywhere. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, that introduction.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your journey and the pieces that you have been through. And there's a lot that you touched on during that, sharing your journey. And I think a lot of things that our listeners can relate to as well, because we all come up against relationships that have patterns, and we see ourselves repeating those patterns in different kinds of relationships. So thank you for sharing that part. And very, very interesting that you became aware that there were patterns happening, and you started asking your own accountability piece out of that one. I find that so interesting, because that's a very difficult piece to actually become aware of and then to work with after.
Agreed. So first step is the listening, the awareness, because in a life we're so distracted with what's happening. So the first step is awakened state, right? When you kind of like, hang on a minute, like, let me review. And the other thing is kind of twist from the life is happening to me to, I think I play active role, not passive role in this whole circumstances. Like, I actually am a very empathetic person. So in some way I felt like my dynamic was a lot about taking responsibility for other people and trying to fix them and trying to extend myself and take responsibility for someone else's emotions, someone else's reactions, avoiding conflict so I don't upset someone. So I kind of consider like I'm very kind, very empathetic, just, trying to soothe everything, make the life better. But I had to actually heal that. Like, over time, I realized that this is the piece where I'm not doing it right. So not to reveal too much about, let's say, the conflict resolution, but like taking responsibility only for what is mine, not for what is other person's part in the dance or in a dynamic in a relationship, was what started to help me and starting to put the difference between who I am and who the other person is more clearly. And it happened kind of like a side effect. It wasn't that it was my intention, but it happened as a side effect of that healing and of that work of twisting that I am a just observer or a witness or victim in that story, more into like, okay, can I do things another way? So the curiosity, so stopping and observing is one thing, like, and you have to lean in with curiosity, not judgment. So that is another piece which is very helpful, I find. And not everyone has a transformation through relationship or awakening through relationships. We have different challenges. Some people have different, let's say, transformation is coming from a chronic disease or massive pain in your body, because again, like it could be stuck emotion which is felt in the body and just can't move through you, and it just draws your attention again until you actually notice it and say like, oh, okay, this is why you're calling me. Like, you need my attention, you need my tenderness, you need my curiosity, you need my love, not avoiding it. Yeah. And the other interesting principle I've been running into is principle of duality, where sometimes by trying to control something in your outer environment, you unconsciously hurting yourself. So for example, if I have the experience that someone angry upsets me, when I'm getting angry, I'm upsetting myself. So I'm trying to eliminate the angry reaction in my environment, or probably shut down when I do see someone having signs of being angry. But as well, if my anger is rising up, I'm shutting down from acting on it. I was just suppressing it. So that was a very interesting piece to my healing, to stop suppressing the anger, because anger is a healthy emotion, which is telling you someone is crossing your boundaries, or there's something which you should pay attention, or some situation which is dangerous for you. But because I didn't integrate that healthy emotion or healthy side of that sign or that body sensation, I was just stuck in like, oh, everything's okay. I'll just keep going this way. And I wasn't aware of what's coming, right? There's a danger and how to respond to it. So that was very empowering, because I didn't like the anger on outside. I was pushing myself not to feel it in my inner world as well. So only by untangling this dynamic inside of me, things on outside started to show up differently as well. Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I am obviously a great believer, and you can probably tell by some of our episodes that our external world and our internal world are so much connected, and what we manifest and attract and work on in our internal world tends to reflect out into our external world. So there's a big connection there. And you also touched on something else very interesting, and that is this complexity that happens when we go through, like you said, different things that affect us. It could be chronic pain, it could be relationships, it could be some other changes that we're experiencing in life. But it's a complexity. It's a disconnection from our physical selves. It's a disconnection from our emotional selves. There are many different layers when we come to that kind of healing that we need to address. And you found ways to help yourself with those different components. You mentioned reconnecting your mind and body again, and working with emotions that you previously had suppressed, like anger. I have a feeling, though, that these aren't quick things. These are things that we become aware of, and then the work actually takes a lot of effort and time to go forward with that.
Very slow. I actually, to admit, had to work on anxiety to leave a house. Like, I was at the stage where I was scared of everything, because I felt a sense of there's a danger if I leave a house. I'm only safe when the door is shut. And that was just a perception. Maybe I was, but I had to work through that. So it shows up as like when I'm getting ready to go outside, I'm just feeling like, oh, do I have everything okay? I'll repack the lunchbox. I changed my clothes again. And just this nonsense activities. And then I was just like, notice what you're doing. Just look at what's happening, right? It's just feel like a little awkward, but just name the emotions. Like, you don't have to have a solution. You don't have to have a way out at the moment. Just start naming it. So I just slow down and it's like, this feels funny in my body. I just feel like my hands are not happy, and just started to put a names on it as I was witnessing it, because normally I didn't have a habit of noticing it. So that was my practice for a long time. And even though it was challenging, then I started to lead with the curiosity. Like, again, like it comes up, right? Like, am I scared of something specific? Okay, it feels like I'm scared of talking to someone that they ask me about, oh, are you single? And I just feel challenged. But how can I take control over, like, when I'm asked, what's my relationship status? I can say, well, this is not a topic I want to discuss today. How about if we just, leave it to a topic of weather or career or whatever. So I do have a control over how much I share with, let's say friends or work colleagues or whoever you meet or ask it to talk about. Your relationship status. So again, I could narrow it down with curiosity and then realize, like, I do have some sort of control over what is happening and how I have a plan for the scenarios. But it needs a person to, first noticing. And the other thing is, like, be kind of courageous to go in that painful point. Like, I'm scared. Why are you scared? And, like, not try to avoid that conversation with yourself, because again, the emotion which is rising up is a message. So it's just like, don't be, vulnerable, or don't be, speaking to people who you don't trust, or like, again, like, you can pick the message if you have that internal conversation with yourself, and it doesn't happen in 5 minutes. You're right. And I did have a therapist or someone to help me to navigate, someone to bounce my ideas off, or someone to do the healing in my body. So it wasn't solo work. It was a teamwork or guided exploration for the parts which I was scared to go by myself. So that's another example.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you don't have any family in Australia. So I imagine that was very difficult to go on this journey feeling like you were just by yourself, because many of us have relatives, parents, siblings, that come with us on that journey. But you now help people go on that journey, and you accompany them and guide them on that journey yourself. Is there anything specific that you've found that works really well, or any modalities that you prefer to use or love using when you are working with your own clients?
Mm-hmm. So it's always leading with the no judgment. So, and what helps people is to be seen, to be witnessed without that, judgment, just holding a space. And sometimes it's as simple as, if someone's coming to you and they're low, they need not to be seen as at their low, or there's something wrong with them which needs to be fixed. So what I like is to see them in their potential and see them as they have all the power, all the knowledge, and all the wisdom already in their body to take them out of it. So once you actually look at the person as already healthy or as already potential, like reaching that potential, that empowers them itself, because I'm not diagnosing, I'm not putting labels on anyone, I'm not judging them, but, oh, you're suicidal, oh, okay. Like, I'm not actually doing that. So root cause therapy is what is my modality, is leading with muscle testing. That is a technique which is from kinesiology, and that's tapping into the knowledge or the knowing of the body. So that's tapping into the unconscious. So even on a cognitive level, I can be confident and say, like, I'm not scared of success. But when we test it on a muscle test, like, the unconscious is kind of scared a little bit, and it does need some love, it does need some attention, it does need some healing, even though my cognitive understanding wants me to not to be scared of success. So that's why I love that modality. So I'm not actually labeling the people or interviewing them. I'm testing their inner wisdom. And when I'll describe the process, it's fascinating. So we'll take my client to light, relaxed state through just a breath, and take them back or forward on their timeline, back to the moment or forward to the moment. Like, let's just, for simplicity, talk about the past. So back to the moment where the fear of success began. So we treating it at the root, the first time you experience that emotion in your body. So it can take you to, let's say, classroom in a school when you were 6 or 7 and you were asked for some question and kids started laughing and you were kind of just shut down and not sure if you should say it out loud or not. So as simple as that, it's not in your active memory, but if you tap into that moment and looking down at that person through your own eyes, you're like, oh, there is a tension on my chest, or there's a tension in my throat. I don't want to speak. I don't want to be wrong. And everyone's just looking at me and I just feel I shouldn't be in that moment, in that situation. It's just, so we heal and process this emotion by feeling in the body, and by feeling it, all of a sudden so I'm holding the space and we have process of taking the person back to safety if it's too overwhelming. And once you're actually on the other side of that yucky feeling, or that part which you were too scared to feel or kind of got out of it, where your ego kind of split in two, like, oh, I can't feel this is too scary, you receive an inner knowing. It's not me implementing someone's confidence in, it's just the body starting to see that there is a different way to see the situation. So, for example, you can see like, kids were laughing, but then they kind of stop laughing and they're curious. They're actually interested to hear me now. I can see that. And the teacher says, go on. Yeah, now you can speak. Everyone's listening. And now I feel that I can, like the tension in my throat is gone. And now there is a light around me and I feel empowered. And I can see that whatever I say next will be received and heard. And that's a beautiful thing. So now you have that own learning in that moment, and now you feel empowered. So it's nice that it's not the guide or the coach implanting some idea or some learning, but it's the body itself. So if the client receives such a transformation and feels the difference between the stress, but through the stress you can actually have the inner wisdom, they realize that they are their own healer by feeling it. So it's not someone else fixing them, but the body already knows. And that's what I love about it, because it's a beautiful feeling to know that it's your own. It's no one else who is better than you.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful point you made there. And that is, again, reiterating that everything we need, all the power we need is already within us. And sometimes it's just taking some of those layers off the top that are obscuring what we already know to bring that back out and bring that back to our consciousness. But it is a really beautiful process. And it does build, I think, a deep sense of empowerment for clients, because as that realization comes that we, like you said, are on the cause side of the equation and we are not just a passenger, we actually can take charge, we become a lot more empowered on our own healing journey and with what is going on in our lives. So I love that type of modality, that type of therapy that really respects the power that we all have and helps us find sort of what's already there that we can bring to the surface. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's very gentle. Yeah.
And working with the subconscious mind, of course, is always interesting because it has such power. And muscle testing and asking questions to the subconscious can often bring that resolution that consciously we just can't reach. It's like tugging at the end of a knot, and all of a sudden it comes undone through the subconscious. So that's very powerful work for your clients. Now, if our audience is curious about how they could work with you, what kind of programs and services do you offer, and how can people actually work with you if they'd, are going through some difficult times, or they're experiencing very troubling relationships or the end of a relationship? How could they work with you?
Yeah, I actually think end of the relationship could be a sign of that breakthrough, or you're in a knowing that there is another level and you are just about to go to another level. So it could be just a sign that there is more for you. It is painful and we do have to grieve and we have to go through the whole cycles of integrating that experience. And it is very challenging, but in some way it's the breakthrough is what could be the transformation even faster. So it's in a way kind of calling you to lean in, to do the steps and to do the healings while you have like maybe the in-between relationships time to focus on yourself. So I love to organize workshops in Australia and also online. So yeah, I usually post those invites and those workshops on my website. So let's link the website where you can list those events under the video or under the audio. I also do coaching programs, 8 weeks, a coaching program where I lead through the steps to integrate that experience and go from like recognizing the patterns, even the generational patterns, and start going to lighter topics as like unblocking your dreams and allow yourself to invite a new energy and new experience to your life, letting go of what no longer serves you, and going through that emotional awareness in my 8-week program. So week on week, we just tap into all of those. Plus we integrate the root cause therapy into it as well, where I can deliver the powerful transformation for people who are at that space and need some guide to take them through that journey and transform and feel empowered after breakup or divorce. And I do the root cause therapy on its own as well for clients, because it's actually very suitable for the limiting beliefs, whichever way they show up. It could be the health problems, it could be addictions, it could be challenging relationship, but you're still in it. It could be some difficulties to find a job, etc., which shows up as self-sabotage or like a different challenges, which you kind of don't know how to get out of by yourself. And it feels like it's deeper than just motivating yourself into like, oh, let's just try harder. So if you tried everything and it's not getting you the results, I recommend to go deeper and have a look in the wounds, childhood wounds. So that's also available on my website. And I'm thinking a few podcasts and publish articles, but it's all there as well. So yeah, very exciting.
Amazing. And we will be linking to all of Ivana's offerings in the show notes as well. So as she said, be sure to check there. We will link up with her website and her services so you can check that out. And of course, if you end up connecting with Ivana, let us know. Find us on Instagram and send me a message and let me know what kind of transformation you went through, what your experiences were. We always love to share and connect our guests with our listeners, because that's really where the magic happens, is when we put those pieces together and we find someone we love working with when we're going through our own challenges. So yeah, if you do end up working with Ivana, let us know here on the podcast. I would just love to have a message from you and sharing your experience. And again, we will be linking to that in the show notes. So be sure to check there on how you can get in touch with Ivana if you'd like to work with her. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed our journey into healing after separation, which can be such a difficult and profound topic. And I feel like you have given us an insight that has been so beautiful and empathetic and supportive. And I can definitely understand people wanting to work with you in their own journeys. Thank you so much for holding that space for us and sharing your own journey. I truly appreciate you being here today and sharing that with us today.
Thank you, Petra. You have also beautiful work out there. I really benefited from your website and podcast, and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. That is very kind for you to say. And I just hope that through all of our combined efforts and the work that we do, we get information out to people. We can support spaces that bring healing, and we can open up those conversations on everything that is out there for people to actually take advantage of in their own healing journeys. So thank you for this amazing work that you do, and take care, Ivana.
Thank you. Same to you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejorni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.